Most people trust what they see. That's exactly how they lose control. Because by the time you question it, you've already moved. You don't notice when it changes, only when it's too late. And by then, you're not deciding anymore. You're following. Sosuke Aizen doesn't control people directly. He changes what they believe is real. And once that changes, they move exactly how he wants. What you see decides what you do. You don't act on reality. You act on what looks like it. Two people see the same situation and move in completely different directions, not because one is smarter, because they're seeing different versions. Think about a time you walked into a room and immediately read the energy wrong. Someone looked distant. You assumed they were upset with you. So you changed how you spoke, how you moved, what you said. The whole interaction shifted based on something you filled in yourself. And maybe they weren't upset at all, but by then it didn't matter. You'd already moved inside that version. Sosuke Aizen works at that level. He doesn't tell people what to do. He changes what they think is happening, just enough. Now the same situation leads to a different decision. No force, no pressure, just a version that feels real enough to act on. And once someone acts on it, they commit to it. The first move doesn't just follow perception, it locks it. The first move locks the version. Why you don't stop. The problem isn't that you got it wrong, it's that once you act, changing it feels worse than continuing. That's the real trap. Not confusion, not blindness, the cost of stopping. You felt this. You committed to something early, then something small didn't fit. But walking back meant admitting the first move was wrong. So instead, you absorbed the detail, adjusted around it, kept going. Not because you were certain, because uncertainty at that point felt like losing something. That's what Aizen counts on. Not that people won't see the cracks, that they'll choose not to follow them. Because by the time a crack appears, too much is already stacked on top. A decision made, a position held, a story told. Reversing doesn't just change what you think, it changes what you did. And most people won't do that. So the version stays, not because it's right, because leaving it is too expensive. You don't stay because you believe it. You stay because leaving costs too much. Why you can't escape. After a while, it's not just that you won't check, it's that there's nothing left to check against. The dangerous part isn't the wrong version, it's that there's nothing left to compare it to. You've seen this in groups. Everyone holds the same read on a situation. Same story, same interpretation. No one questions it, not because it's correct, because there's no outside angle visible from inside it. That's the shift. Not confusion, certainty. A certainty with no exit. Sosuke Aizen creates that condition deliberately. He doesn't just change what you see, he removes your ability to find anything outside it. No second angle, no clean reference point, no moment where you can step back far enough to compare. So whatever version you were given becomes the only one that holds together. And a version that holds together feels like truth, even when it isn't. You're not being pushed from outside. You're operating inside a reality that has no exit visible from where you're standing. Certainty with no exit is the trap. How it spreads. Here's where it goes further. Once you're committed to a version, you don't just protect it privately. You spread it. You explain it to people around you. You repeat it. And every time you do, it gets more real. Someone is convinced of something, and they start telling everyone. Not to persuade them, because saying it out loud makes it feel more true. And when others agree, it feels confirmed. Now it's not just your version, it's the version. That's the shift Aizen relies on. He doesn't need to control 100 people. He needs to control the version that people share with each other. Once that's set, they reinforce it for him. One person explains it to another. That person passes it on. By the time someone questions it from outside, they're not pushing against one person's belief. They're pushing against a shared reality that a dozen people have already confirmed for each other. Not because the illusion is perfect, because everyone inside it has already staked something on it being true, and none of them want to be the first to say it isn't. You don't just believe it, you build it for each other.
Why it's irreversible.
By the time you realize it, you can't go back without losing something. That's the final layer. Not that people can't see clearly. That clarity arrives too late to be free. You've seen this. A situation felt right, so you stayed. Told people, made decisions, built on top of it, and then something shifted. But reversing now doesn't just mean changing your mind. It means undoing everything stacked on top of that first move. The decisions, the commitments, the version you gave to others. So most people don't reverse. They reframe. They adjust the story just enough to keep moving forward. That's where Aizen's control becomes permanent. He never has to appear again, because the cost of leaving is now greater than the cost of staying. And people will carry that version forward, not because they chose it, but because they can no longer afford to drop it. So the real question isn't who is controlling you. It's this: what have you already committed to that you haven't checked since the first move? Because by the time it feels wrong, you may already be too far in to turn back. If you want to understand how control actually works, stay with Mindverse. Next video, Itachi. What you see isn't the problem. It's how fast you trust it. Most people move on the first version. That's where they lose control. Itachi Uchiha doesn't. He waits. Not to understand more, to see what breaks. Because once something fails under pressure, it's not safe to follow. Saturday, not about seeing more, about knowing what not to trust. Mindverse. Subscribe.